Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name's Amy, and I'm an ordained minister, and we are in Bible study. We are in the NIV, we are in the book of Ezra, and we are in chapter 6. This is the decree of Darius, the king of Persia, the answer to, who told you could rebuild this temple? Because the Jewish people have such long memories, they just waited for the haters to die and then just resume the work that God told them to do, because ultimately they serve God and they don't serve the humans around them. They know that serving the humans around them and having to listen to them is just a matter of waiting. So let that inspire us if we're facing opposition at any one day. Just wait. God wins always anyway. Remember that. Because if they're an inspiration for anything, they're an inspiration to remember that God always wins anyway. The whole book is full of it. Chapter 6, verse 1. The decree of Darius. King Darius then issued an order, and they searched in the archives stored in the treasury of Babylon. A scroll was found. See, we've always been keeping archives. In the citadel of Ecbatana. Isn't that a fun name? Ecbatana. 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 Somebody should name their kid that. Ecbatana, or a pet or something. Hashtag Ecbatana. In the province of Media. Literally. Media. We didn't even make anything up. Really, we got it all from him. And it was written, and this was written on it. Memorandum. See, we weren't even original there. In the first year of King Cyrus, the king issued a decree concerning the temple of God in Jerusalem. Let the temple be rebuilt as a place to present sacrifices, and let its foundations be laid. It is to be 90 feet, got a footnote of A, in Aramaic, 60 cubits, or about 27 meters, high, and 90 feet wide, with 3 courses of large stones and 1 of timbers. The costs are to be paid by the royal treasury. Also, the gold and silver articles of the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar took from the temple in Jerusalem and brought to Babylon, are to be returned to their place in the temple of Jerusalem. They are to be deposited in the house of God. Now then, Tadaniah, governor of Trans-Euphrates, and Shethar, Bozaniah, you and their fellow officials of that province, stay away from there. Do not interfere with the work of this temple of God. Let the governor of the Jews and the Jewish elders rebuild this house of God on its site. Moreover, I hereby decree what you are to do for these elders of the Jews in the construction of this house of God. Remember always that a leader has the responsibility of seeing things from more than one angle, and that what God says is justice, is what is fair for everybody. It's not going to be one of us is all right and one of us is all wrong. If you go pointing things out about other people, don't be surprised when that same leader comes looking at you and going, wait a minute, they're going to correct this, and now you're going to correct this. Because that's absolutely his way. So that's the way he inspires leaders to be too. So careful. If you don't bring drama, there won't be drama. If you seek revenge, you seek drama. He's got it. You don't need to. Right? It's a hard lesson for me too. Trust me. I'm not saying anything to you that I don't have to say to my own brain too, okay? It's all right. But also we should all knock it off. The expenses of these men are to be fully paid out of the royal treasury from the revenues of Trans-Euphrates. You guys are going to pay for this temple. You guys that complained about this temple, you're going to pay to build it, so that the work will not stop. Whatever is needed, young bulls, rams, male lambs for burnt offerings to the God of heaven, and wheat, salt, wine, and oil, as requested by the priest in Jerusalem, must be given them daily without fail, so that they may offer sacrifices pleasing to the God of heaven and pray for the well-being of the king and his sons. Furthermore, I decree that if anyone changes this edict, a beam is to be pulled from his house, and he is to be lifted up and impaled on it. So death for interference. And for this crime, his house is to be made a pile of rubble, so nothing for your offspring either. May God, who has caused his name to dwell there, overthrow any king or people who lifts a hand to change this decree or destroy this temple in Jerusalem. I, Darius, have decreed it. Let it be carried out with diligence. So that is a major smack in the face. That is a major mind your business. Because he will and can level. You either build with him or he destroys it. Because your own nature will make it be destroyed. You can't build while you're focusing on revenge and destruction of other people. It interferes with building. It interferes with clear judgment. So it interferes with building. Completion and dedication of the temple. Then, because of the decree of King Darius had sent, Tadaniah, governor of Trans-Euphrates, and Shethar, Bozaniah, and their associates carried it out with diligence. So the elders of the Jews continued to build and prosper under the preaching of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah, a descendant of Edo. They finished building the temple according to the command of the God of Israel and the decrees of Cyrus, Darius, and Artaxerxes, king of Persia. The temple was completed on the 3rd day of the month of Adar, A-D-A-R, in the 6th year of the reign of King Darius. Then the people of Israel, the priests, the Levites, and the rest of the exiles, celebrated the dedication of the house of God with joy. For the dedication of this house of God, they offered 100 bulls, 200 rams, 400 male lambs, and a sin offering for all of Israel, 12 male goats, one for each of the tribes of Israel. And they installed the priests in their divisions and the Levites in their groups for the service of God at Jerusalem, according to what is written in the book of Moses. The Passover. On the 14th day of the 1st month, the exiles celebrated the Passover. The priests and the Levites had purified themselves and were all ceremonially clean, as is appropriate. The Levites slaughtered the Passover lambs for all the exiles, for their brothers the priests, and for themselves. So the Israelites who had returned from exile ate it together with all who had separated themselves from the unclean practices of their Gentile neighbors in order to seek the Lord. So even if you were not born a Jew, if you were living as a Jew, as a foreigner living as a Jew in Jewish land, you are welcome to celebrate Passover with them and eat of the Passover lamb because you were behaving in accordance with the law, at least in your outward behavior, and not being sinful by their rules. So you are welcome to be there. Because Judaism doesn't exclude people from joining. They just tell you you have to follow their rules. These are the rules. You follow these rules. Congratulations. You're now at least religiously a Jew. We will treat you like our brethren. Because we all worship the same God. Everybody who worships the same God we do is our brethren under the eyes of God. Because God is in everybody. So I'll read that part again. So the Israelites who had returned from exile ate it, together with all who had separated themselves from the unclean practices of their Gentile neighbors in order to seek the Lord, the God of Israel. Gentiles is everybody not genetically Jewish. Most likely the person who's watching this video. For 7 days they celebrated with joy the feast of the unleavened bread, because the Lord had filled them with joy by changing the attitude of the king of Assyria. This is still King Darius, because he's the king of Assyria too. So that he assisted them in the work of the house of God, the God of Israel. Humans are rather finicky. God is really not. And he's immortal. So he can just absolutely wait for you to die and just pick something right up where it left off. And since you're dead, you won't be able to stop anything. And if you weren't with him, you're not in heaven. You're in Sheol, right? You're in the ground. You're cremated or wherever, and your soul is not in heaven. So you can't stop him. When your body dies, your power dies, unless you're doing the work of God and you're heading to heaven. That's why it's unwise to rely on men, and I mean that mankind, not one gender or another. It's finicky. Mankind is finicky. We're very finicky creatures. Homo sapiens, we're very driven by our emotions. Logic and reasoning is something we have to bring ourselves to. It helps. We have to have both because it helps balance us. Start with balance. Justice will follow.